Alright, hello and welcome to another episode of Worlds Collide. I'm your host, Justin.
I'm Kenny.
Mitch is subbing out here for today, so Kenny is filling in like we planned. Great, Mitch, you enjoyed the weekend and just had some fun with the girlfriend there. So, what are we doing today?
Today we're discussing Wolverine.
Yes.
Or Logan.
Or James Howlett,
Yes.
as he was originally known. I guess that's his OG origin. From boyhood. Now, do you know the James Howlett story? Okay. So, he was raised as a young child on a rich plot of land. I forget what they did on this place, but basically, he was the rich lord's son, or so they thought. And there was a caretaker who worked the land, and there was a girl, and there's another boy. So the three children would play all day, and they got to be the best of friends. And then one day, something happened between them. Both boys wanted the girl, so obviously they were pitted against each other as rivals. And the one boy who was the son of the caretaker, and James was the son of the Lord. The boy tried forcing himself upon the girl, and James kind of walked into the middle of this and was like, "You can't do this. This is bad." And he ran to tell his father. And before he saw it, she turned and actually knocked the boy up. She defended herself, which is great. But too late, he had gone and told his father. So his father had wanted him to be reprimanded, and when he got home that night, he was. Now his dad kind of gave him the licking. Long story short, all this wrapped up to be that James's true father was the caretaker. We find that out later. A whole bunch of crap happens that makes James run away. He's basically outcast. You're no longer welcome here. He runs away with this girl, and they start a new life at a logging camp. And at the logging camp is where he takes on the persona Logan. Dubbed to him by, I believe the girl's name is Daisy. One sec here, we're gonna kill the bone chewing in the background.
He's just lying on the ground chewing it.
Alright. Contraband. So yeah, basically it's from boyhood to kind of teenhood. That's where the story covers. And it's him finally joining this logging camp and taking on the name Logan, seeing that James Howlett was his past life. He's leaving it behind. It's no longer him. And there at the camp, he runs into trouble with the cook. The cook is this massive beast of a man who's always giving him short rations, so he's going hungry. And during this time period, Logan learned to hunt. Learned how to survive on his own in the wild, based on necessity. Because he didn't want to starve, he didn't want to die. And that's where he later kind of met a pack of wolves. Oh, dog's trying to get the bone off the table here.
Kirby.
Get down. Alright, so at the camp, he runs into troubles with the cook. And at one point ends up fighting him. And in the middle of this fight, this cook's about to beat and kill Logan when what did he do? Oh, sorry, the foreman had to step in. Foreman of the camp stepped in, and the whole reason they fought was because one day the foreman came to Logan and said, "Why don't you stand up for yourself? You know, you're gonna let him push you around forever. Why don't you stand up for yourself?" So Logan challenged him to a fight. He's about to kill Logan. The foreman has to step in. After the foreman steps in, Logan runs off back into the woods. That's where he kind of takes off for a while. Now, I forgot to mention during this whole encounter of him before leaving the Lord's farm, or the Lord's plot of land, he actually kills... He kills his father. Now, it wasn't the Lord who he killed had killed the other father. The one who he didn't really know was his. The way he had done this was, I believe, she had shot someone, and in response, out of rage, Logan punched him. And as he punched him, the bone claws came out. Right? So that was when... Oh, that was what it was. Okay, so the caretaker of the plot of land, one day when he got in trouble and was fired, he thought that the Lord didn't deserve such a pretty wife. Decided he was going to go take her for himself. So when he walked into the Lord, him, his son, and someone else, or maybe it was just him and his son, Wolf, who later we find out is Sabretooth, I believe. No, maybe not. No, disregard. But he goes to the Lord's mansion and breaks in, him and his son, and they make their way to the bedroom. They burst in, and the Lord goes, "What are you doing here? What the hell are you doing here? You're fired. Get off my land." And he's like, "Ah, you don't deserve such a pretty wife." And before they knew it, James walked in just in time to see his dad's head blown off, essentially. And then his mom's being kind of, pushed around and being taken, and that's when James loses it and runs and punches him. Yeah, and shing, up, bub. The bone claws come out at that point. And then his mom yells, "Not again, you freak, like you monster." So this wasn't the first time this has happened. And this is where we get the insight that maybe it's not his mother, right? So basically she slaps James and says, like, "Stop, put him away," and all this. And the man's reeling back, seeing that he's just been punctured with the bone claws, and he dies. Mm-hmm. And the old man, so the grandfather of the estate, cruel old man, he basically said, "You're no longer welcome here, get." And his mom said the same thing, "You get the hell out of here." And then it was at that, later, once he was at the logging camp, when he got driven into the woods, he then found a pack of wolves, and he lived with the wolves for years and years and years. And so that's the origin story of Wolverine, of Logan, and James Howlett. Mm-hmm. And for years, he lived with the wolf pack, and then one day, there was a polar bear that came by, a big polar bear, and it didn't belong in this region, this cave that he had called family, like this wolf pack that he had taken. And then there was another one, the wolf pack. It was like red streak or something. Well, one day they were out hunting and they saw the polar bear and they minded their own business, left it alone. And a bit of time goes on and they catch a scent of blood one day on the way back to the cave. And he returns to their cave where they made their den. And there's just blood everywhere, and the polar bear's sitting there chewing on one of them. So, like, Wolverine loses it, and he attacks the polar bear, and it basically is about to kill him when he finally puts his blade claws in it to finally kill it. The two of them are just a bloody mess all over the snow, and at that, he kind of is like, "All right, I'm done with this life again," and he moves on. So at different points in his life, Wolverine's just, I move on. I leave this life behind. Mm-hmm. But he'd gone from being a child on an estate to a logging man to a wild survivalist, right? To now have nothing. So now he's the lone Wolverine. And at that point, I think is when one of his other origin stories kicks in that you were kind of looking up.
Well, there is so he gets involved in X project and that, which is where he gets his bones gets infused with adamantium, and that's when he gets the classic silver claws, and that was done by Dr.
Yeah, I think that was following recently after the whole bear encounter event.
Yeah,
because then he went kind of moving on to his next life, and there's soldiers that came and found the bear dead. Mm-hmm. And one thing I forgot to mention was a tagging chip on the bear. There was a silver button, kind of like a chip. And it was experiment number whatever from Place, mm-hmm. Cadmus, or whoever the hell it was. So they had been doing tests on this bear to make it bigger, stronger, and everything. And essentially, they tracked it to its location, which brought them to Wolverine. So then they start tracking Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And then Weapon X.
Yeah. They they infuse him with adamantium, and because of he does have the healing factor, which allows his body to not kill him from the adamantium.
Yeah, he's
Because
able
it
to
does.
withstand the...
Yeah, because like the adamantium does poison him. It's just his healing factor overrides that.
Yeah.
Which we do see later on is the cause of his death in the movie Logan.
Yes.
Because his healing factor is slowed down so much that he is continuously being poisoned and dies. Well, he would have died from the poison.
Would have died from the poison. And that's the movie rendition that we got.
Yeah.
There's, in Logan's true death in the comics, it's a little different. He basically is coated in adamantium.
Yeah.
And to the point where he can't breathe.
Yeah. So it's in the Death of Wolverine comics.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is from like in the it's kind of an offshoot of the X-Men story line that was going. There was a viral infection that stopped Wolverine's healing factor. So that is kind of a similar factor. And someone put a bounty out on him. So he was going through like everyone, and it turns out the person who put the bounty on him was the original runner of the X program, who did like infuse him with the adamantium. And so there is a final confrontation with Wolverine and him, and Wolverine winds up like mortally wounding him, but also stopping. The reason why he becomes coated in adamantium is because the doctor had tried was gonna flip the switch on infusing 2 other people, but they lacked Wolverine's healing factor. And so Wolverine stopped that, but in stopping it, he got covered in adamantium. And like the final end of the comic is him taking his last breath outside in the sunrise as the adamantium is hardening, and then he suffocates.
Yes. Such an ending for a near immortal character.
Yeah.
Been around because we haven't really talked about his true comic origin, because his true comic origin is different, because we don't start with all the background of James Howlett, and we don't start with all of it. Where did we first see Wolverine in the comics?
So his first appearance was a slight cameo in the Incredible Hulk 180 from 1974.
Right.
And then he's actually fully utilized in the Incredible Hulk 181. And so he was just like a character put in there. Like, one of the writers even said the way they saw it, it was just one of those secondary or tertiary characters, and that they were using in that book with no particular notion of going anywhere. But then he became popular, and when the X-Men in 1975 started up, well, the giant size X-Men in 1975, Logan was one of the new recruits for the team.
Yeah.
Even though he's a pint-sized angry Canadian.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Now, he's been in like 13,000 comics since then. He's been like huge. Like, there's during our research of Wolverine, there's so many different storylines and crossovers and team ups.
Pretty much any X-Men storyline, somewhere Wolverine appears.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's usually like a pivotal role. Like, he's the game changer. He's the one that you call in to come save the day in some shape or form. He might not be the one saving the day, but he brought the people together.
An interesting thing about Wolverine, in his first appearance, his costume was a little different. Yeah. The way his costume is, like the signs on the side, they weren't as defined, and it looked kind of more similar to a Batman costume. And it was actually an accident in a screw up in the comic of his first cover, with like the exaggerated blue parts on his costume and his helmet, and everyone, like the creators, liked it enough that they actually stuck with it and integrated that into his design, because it made him a little more original.
Oh, that is interesting.
So it was like the one artist drew it wrong for the cover, and people were like, "Oh, we actually really like that," and so they made it into his actual.
That's his real appearance.
Yeah.
It became canon. That's pretty cool. Because he's gone through a couple wardrobe changes over the years.
Because he has the classic blue and yellow.
Yeah. Now, before that, wasn't there a brown and yellow? Because he's had a brown and yellowish outfit at one point.
Mm.
I thought that was the original one, but it's hard to remember because at one point they had just like the majority yellow spandex.
His blue and yellow and black is the first appearance.
Ah.
And there was, I believe, the brown one. It survived like 2 comics.
Oh, okay. So it didn't last too long.
It wasn't very popular. Like even the so like it was introduced at the end of one artist's run, and it survived like 1 comic of the next artist, and then they brought in.
Yeah, they're like, all right, back to the yellow and blue.
Yeah, like everyone didn't really like that comic.
Well, it's a very, I don't know, it's a very here I am, right, kind of costume, and that's Wolverine. He doesn't hold anything back.
No.
Like okay, so we've always seen him in the movies too, right? And he got played by Hugh Jackman for pretty much the entire run of the Wolverine cinematic series.
Of the 12 X-Men, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine has appeared in 10 of them, I believe, and 9 of them were played by Hugh Jackman.
Which one wasn't played by Hugh Jackman?
Younger Wolverine in the X-Men Origins. It was played by Troy Sivan. In X-Men Origins has like it shows younger Wolverine, and it's that instance isn't played by
really
him. Yeah.
I'm glad I've blacked that from my memory.
But like as he gets older, it is played. It's just the younger version of him in that movie.
Oh, when he's a boy.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
When he's a little
baby.
Because
I'm like, I was pretty sure that was still Hugh.
Yeah. We don't really talk about that movie.
Well, it was better than X-Men Origins or Wolverine Origin 2. When he's fighting the samurai. That one, and it's in Japan. All of it. That one was bad. That one's probably like I would watch Dark Phoenix, or sorry, like the third.
Oh, Last Stand.
Yes, Last Stand. I would watch that over that. Couldn't deal with that. And that one's canon though to comics. He did fight that samurai. He fought a lot of samurais. Wolverine used to fight a lot of samurais. I don't know why. He just has a thing against samurais. Yeah.
I mean, Wolverine was created at the time of like the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
So
there was
obviously some animosity and stuff.
Easy enemy, right?
Yeah.
Now, at one point, he was trained by a samurai, I think, or a monk of some sort. Like he had a teacher in Japan or Tokyo.
He has martial arts training.
Yeah. I just can't remember the name of his master.
What do you think?
I know.
Yeah.
He's been to hell a few times. So Wolverine's kind of died a few times, but okay. So this time he went to hell. He was brought back by the 2 Ghost Riders, and when he was brought back, he was still possessed by demons. So he was still kind of in hell fighting the devil. And then when he came back, he was fighting for control of his body against the demons, who had also possessed him. So, yeah, there's a big fight, and it's basically that's the X-Men versus Wolverine series. Prior to that, though, he had been in hell, and at the end of that, he fought his way through hell, basically withstanding all the corruption, all the torment, all the struggles thrown in front of him, basically. And then he finally finds his father. Father, I talked about being a caretaker. And there's some weapon that the devil was using against him. He had to fight the devil at the end of this. And with this blade that the devil had, it would not let any wounds caused by it heal. So no matter his healing factor, if he got cut by this thing, they're not healing. So eventually Wolverine gets this weapon from him and is fighting him, and his father wants him to stay in real hell with him, and he says, "No, fuck you." He throws the weapon to the demons and says, "Here, use this against the devil." And they basically rise up and start fighting the devil because Wolverine had showed him that, look, he bleeds. He got him with his claws. Right? So it's like, look, he will bleed, he will die. Kill him with this. And they left them to kind of figure it out in hell as all the chaos is going on. Just turns to his father and he's like, "Why don't you stay and roll with me?" He's like, "I don't know, you're nothing to me." And he leaves him again there. And his father kind of yelled like, "This isn't the end. I'll see you again." So that was one time in hell, and then the other time in hell was that might be the same time when he's leaving hell, and as he leaves hell, he gets possessed by all the demons. So yeah, he's been in hell a fair bit, died a fair bit. There's a lot to Wolverine. He's always had the love affair with Jean Grey, right? He's always kind of had that rivalry with Scott Summers, Cyclops. He's been the one that's been there through the ages, though.
Yeah.
Like, how old is he now? Did we get an actual age for him?
So that ties in a little bit actually to his like comic design origin.
Mm-hmm.
So originally the one creator, John Bryn, like one artist, had a design for what Logan would look like outside of his costume.
Okay.
But David Cochran had done a comic during his run of X-Men number 98 where he actually had an unmasked Logan.
Oh, okay. So he had already showed it.
Yeah. So then they took John Bryn and some other people took his original design for Logan and turned it into Sabretooth. And then they worked Sabretooth into being Logan's, like, his dad. So Saber in the one run, so Sabretooth was 120 and Logan was 60 years old and he had fought in World War.
Okay, so is Sabretooth actually his real father?
Sabretooth in the one run was Logan's father.
Okay, and is that canon?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I think it changes sometimes in shows and movies.
Yeah, in shows and movies sometimes they're brothers, sometimes they're rivals, sometimes like it's like, who the fuck are you guys? Figure it out. Your family history needs to get like a little bit revamped. Now, Wolverine and Sabretooth, they go hand in hand. Like, they're pretty much the same. Right? They both have healing factor. They both have the animal instincts, keen senses, like heightened hearing, smell, touch, taste. The Sabretooth has claws, literally like giant fingernails, as opposed to Wolverine's bones. And the only difference is Wolverine got the adamantium upgrade.
Well, you didn't really have much of a choice, but...
Right. Yeah. So he's just the newer model. So, at what point was Wolverine already 60 then when he fought in the war?
No. He would have been younger when he was fought in World
War. Oh, okay. So that was World War II.
Yeah.
Younger than... Oh. So he's only like maybe 100 plus, like today.
Like, I mean, even in the like Logan movie, he was...
Yeah.
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 He was like 120.
100, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, that works then. That works. Trying to get a timeline of kind of where he is, because I remember in Days of Future Past, he's still there, and that's when he's getting pretty old. Right? And then it's hard to say where he looked older, Days of Future Past or Logan. Probably Logan. A lot older.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with the Logan story, that changed from comics. You know what that origin story was supposed to be?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, so you know how they had it that Charles had killed everyone in the X-Mansion? That's false. So it was actually Wolverine. The way he had done this was I believe it was the Red Skull. Started pairing up villains to more suitable fights. In the sense that sometimes a hero just way outmatches the villain. Right? They're gonna win just because they have all the advantages. What Red Skull was, he kind of rebalanced the scales. He started pairing up people that favored the villains. So what he did to counter all Wolverine's senses and smells and hearing and counter all the other X-Men there, well, he put Wolverine against them, thinking they were his adversaries. The way he did this was he sent Mysterio to the X-Mansion. Just Mysterio. Just Mysterio. And Mysterio was able to manipulate all his senses so bad that Wolverine thought they had sent a 40-man kill force. Soldiers. So Wolverine went man by man through the mansion, killing and eradicating, severing, dismembering, and destroying the 40-man kill force of soldiers sent to kill the X-Men. So he thought. At the end of it, when he had finally killed the last person, and came back to his senses, all the illusions and charades had disappeared, surrounded by his fellow X-Men, just dismembered, severed, dead, everywhere around him. And at that was where Old Man Logan came in, because he vowed to never put the claws out again. At that, he was done. He then left the X-Mansion, found a freight train, laid his head on the tracks, tried to kill himself. Train hit him in the neck, and his healing factor kicked in. Did not die. So Wolverine tried to end himself after killing everyone in the X-Mansion. Didn't quite do a good job. Then enters Logan movie. Okay, so Charles was the one kind of in remission, being like, oh, what have I done? What have I done? Old age, dementia, etc. No. That wasn't actually that way. It was Logan who was in denial, and from that point on refused to show his claws. To the point that we even get the Old Man Logan dystopian future comic line with the Hulk. And you know about that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what you know about that storyline, because we've kind of made our way that far.
So with the Old Man Logan storyline, it involved Hulk basically having control of the world, and Logan's just a simple farmer.
And this happened basically because the Avengers have been defeated, all the heroes on Earth have been defeated. This is a dystopian future, so it's kind of a separate comic line. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that everything here is not exactly canon. So Red Skull had assembled all these teams and sent them everywhere, right? So they had won. They had taken over the world, and then divided it all up into different sections. And basically, it was like Eastern Canada and the United States was Hulkland, which had been Abominable Land before, but Hulk took it over. And Bruce Banner's like a hillbilly. So from there, what happens?
So then he's basically like a mafia boss, the Hulk, wanting like action money and all that. And Logan doesn't pay him, pays him late. And one day Logan comes back and finds that his family has all been slaughtered.
And he's a farmer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just got a plot of farmland just on the outskirts of this Hulk-ruled land. And it's not just the Hulk. He's got offspring.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and how do you get those? with his yeah, he made a bunch of inbred children with his cousin She-Hulk. Reason being, she's the only one that could keep up. I get it. She got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of thug ass Hulks running around just being delinquents.
So Logan finds out that his family has been killed. So he then goes to the Hulk, confronts them, and winds up slaughtering all the Hulks.
Yep.
Finally releases his claws.
and there's a little bit of more detail in there. Basically, Hawkeye comes to him one day saying, "You know what? I gotta deliver this package. It's just like a super serum for the rebels. You know, we gotta get it to them. I just need your help making the travel." And during that travel, there's all kinds of obstacles. There's all kinds of dilemmas and fights in their way. They get their ass kicked left and right, and through it all, he just won't pop his claws. No matter what, he gets beaten, broken, stabbed, bloodied, fucked up to boot. And just no matter what, he won't pop his claws. Hawkeye does lots of killing along the way, and he's blind, which is hilarious. It's more of like a daredevil reflex he has at this point, because he's still blind, but he's a damn good shot, just sharpshooting everything, because Wolverine won't kill anything. He's like, no, just being a bum ass. So finally, like you said, before that, they finally deliver this package, and it's no rebels. It's actually the Red Skull and his cronies, and they shoot the shit out of Hawkeye, killing him. They shoot the shit out of Wolverine, thinking they killed him. They body bag them both. They sent them off to Red Skull. His like hideout, his headquarters, where he keeps all his trophies. He had his Iron Man suit and his Thor hammer and his Captain America shield. And lo and behold, Wolverine's regeneration factor kicks in again. So as they are unzipping the bodies, take a look at them. Shing! I think even then, I don't think he pulled out the claws.
I don't think it was until the Hulk fight.
Even then, he did not pull out the claws, but he used Captain America's shield to beat the fuck out of Red Skull and to sever his head with the shield. So he severs Red Skull's head with the shield, finally makes his ass home with all the money, with all the payoff. So he actually got all the money. Because at, Red Skull's lair, there's plenty of loot. He actually takes Iron Man's suit to fly back to his farm. So he's in haste, right? Like, he's going. And he gets back there, and they had already came early to collect the loot. So, of course, everyone's dead. So he goes to see Banner in his cave. And Banner's this hillbilly-ass idiot. Like, he is not as intelligent as the normal Bruce Banner. Okay, so this lack of intelligence plays to his downfall, because he ends up beating Wolverine in the fight. Wolverine gets eaten by him. He must not have eaten him whole. With an adamantium skeleton, I don't think he can bite through.
No, I don't think even Hulk could.
No, so interesting. So yeah, he ate him whole. And was reminded soon after by one of his offspring, "Hey Dad, can't that guy heal?" Just as out pops Wolverine from the Hulk's stomach, just ripping him wide open, and that's how the Hulk died. So that's one death of the Hulk from Wolverine. If you want to chalk that up down to a Hulk versus Wolverine fight count, that's one. Even though he's a hillbilly Banner, that's one. And from there, slaughtered every fucking offspring that he had, and then decided, you know what, we're gonna start taking out the rest of the villains. That's when Wolverine was born. Old Man Logan, as he then goes by in comics too, I think. Old Man Logan. But that's when the claws finally come out again. It takes a while, but they come back out. Now, what other crossovers do you know if he's been in? What are their team ups?
Well, he's been part of part of his origin says that he's from like the Alpha Fight Squad, which is the Canadian version of the Avengers.
Okay, I was gonna say, who the hell are they?
they had like one comic
Captain
and like
Canuck and
offhandedly mentioned at some point. But there's like a storyline where they basically try and recapture Wolverine because of the amount of money the Canadian government spent on building Wolverine. So they're trying to like recapture him. Obviously they hold him off, like Wolverine and them hold the Alpha team off, the Alpha Fight team off, and they're never really heard from again. And then he also has a daughter.
Yes.
Who's technically actually a clone of him.
Was that X-23?
X-23.
Yep.
She actually doesn't have comic book origins. She was first introduced in the Uncanny X-Men TV show.
Oh, that was her first
Yeah.
appearance.
So her first appearance, similar to like Harley Quinn, was actually in a TV show.
I love Wolverine.
And then she became popular, and she's had a few miniseries. She also took over the mantle of Logan. Well, not Logan. Wolverine. For a bit. So she was from 2015 to about 2018 in the all new Wolverine comics.
Yeah.
It was X-23.
Yeah, because Wolverine had died at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was gone.
Yeah, because his the death of Wolverine happened in 2014.
Yep, and so then there's Wolverine Returns.
Yeah, which is started 2018,
I think so, but now there's the. Is there all new, all different? Is he part of that too?
I think so.
So we might make another change up again. Yeah, like he's been redone, recast, remastered so many times.
Mm-hmm. He's also like one of the actual original members of the Avengers.
Oh, okay.
Because like, so the Avengers, he was originally like in like the comic book teams, and actually in a lot of TV shows, he's one of the members of the Avengers.
Okay.
As opposed to like the standard Tony Hawk, Thor, like the ones you see in the like Avengers movies. Mm-hmm. Mostly they had to go that route in the movies because
who they had rights to.
Because Fox had the licenses
for all
to
the
X-Men.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Could you imagine that? Getting to rewatch all the Avengers, seeing Wolverine in there.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been fucking wicked.
I mean, Disney owns Fox now, so should be coming.
All right, Avengers round 2, and they reshoot everything with your real cast. I don't know. Now,
yeah,
give us new stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was always like a continuation theme of the Avengers. Like they always go and grow. But like it has like Bumblebee.
Oh yeah.
And
totally different now.
Yeah.
Trying to think here. So, what are some feats that we've seen Wolverine do in the movies versus some comics?
Obviously, destruction
And
and being eaten. He is in the comics, in the one X-Men comic, Magneto actually pulls all the adamantium out of him, and that's actually when the first time when you see that his bone is actually the base of the claws, which was actually a joke from the creators, but it was actually put into canon. So that's like the first time that there's confirmation that his claws are actually a part of him as opposed to just an adamantium add-on. Because like our initial design was that the claws would come from his gloves.
Right, and like that's why you've seen it in some depictions of him that the glove has the little blue nubs.
Yeah.
Right.
And so some of them, the blue nubs is the actual claws. Other ones is the blue nubs is a space for the claws to come through, so they're not ripping through the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not ripping through the gloves every time.
Like they're ripping through his skin every single time. Because like they rip through, then when he retracts them, they heal back over.
Healing factor, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so I knew Magneto removed all the adamantium from his body. I did not know that was the first time his bone claws were revealed and then put into canon.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Magneto must have done that somewhere early in the comic line of Wolverine. Because he eventually got his own standalone line too.
Mm-hmm.
Funny addition to that though, when Wolverine gets all the adamantium ripped from his body, the only thing holding his skeletal frame and him together is Jean Grey. She's using her telepathy or psychic power to actually hold his body together from going. I don't know how for a while he ran that way. For a while Wolverine was adamantium free. After that, how do you get it back? Do we know?
I think they went through back like the process of like how initially it was done, like the basically embalming with the adamantium again.
He had to do it again? No way.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. And he probably remembers it this time and brainwash him after.
Oh god, no.
Oh
I
fuck.
mean, you see in in the movie portrayals, he has flashbacks.
Yeah.
Especially in two.
With Stryker, yeah.
I think is when they actually go to the dam where they.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good movie. And then so Wolverine has a lot of doppelganger type villains, we'll say. There's Lady Deathclaw, right? We see her in the second one. She basically is the same as Wolverine in every way, but she has adamantium coming from her fingernails that go out like daggers, and they can retract too. Who else is there? There's obviously his daughter,
She has claws similar to Wolverine,
but two,
yeah,
not three.
She has two, and then she also has a claw that comes out the back of her foot. But you
Is it back of the foot or front? I couldn't remember if it was a toe or a heel. I remember seeing it in the Logan movie though.
think it might actually be toe of the foot.
Yeah.
But you do see it in the movie where like they're like, haha, we caught you, and then she like shink and goes boom.
Yes.
Stabs them.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, I was like, what? She can do that? Like, yeah, that was pretty cool. So those are his daughter, him. Who else? There's another one I can't think of that has the same damn powers as him. Well, we've already mentioned Sabretooth essentially.
Yeah.
But I think there's another one. So you end up seeing at the end of the one X-Men Origins after they've done all the tests on him. He has to fight Deadpool. the shittiest, lamest, weirdest Deadpool ever. Now, is that origin story to comic, or was that just stupid movie? Like, is Deadpool a mix of all those people?
Well, Deadpool's origins is
We'll get to him in different days.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if that was canon comic at all.
Don't really. I think there is some aspect of Deadpool's healing factor was supposed to have come from Wolverine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Okay. The fact that it was Ryan Reynolds with a stitch shut mouth. Pretty hilarious considering that guy is all mouth. Yeah. Wolverine's had quite a run.
He basically anytime you find the X-Men, you'll find him.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Next week, who we got going on?
Well, what do you think of future? Next week we have Deathstroke /
Blade Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you think they'll lay off Wolverine for a little bit because Hugh Jackman is so iconic with him, or do you think they'll introduce him into the MCU?
It's a great question. Now, I kind of have two answers for it. What they've already tried laying off Wolverine before, right? That's why they've killed him. They tried to keep him dead. People wanted him back. That's why they brought him back. So, he's a popular enough character, and the way they've built the character is he's OP, but he's not. He can be deterred, but he can't ever be really stopped, you know? But they also make him have mortal, problems too. So he's always relevant. He lives forever.
Yeah.
Well,
so he slowly gets poisoned.
But even that, I feel like they can bring him back because there's time travelers.
Yeah.
They've already introduced time travel into Days of Future Past, into the MCU. We now have Cable. Like, I don't think Wolverine's going anywhere. And here's another thing too: is Hugh Jackman doesn't age. Like, yeah, he's getting up there in years, but when he steps on screen as Wolverine, it's always Wolverine. And I think we got another 10 years easily of him doing that.
Do you think they'll continue with Hugh Jackman or try and find someone else?
That's the question. Do they ride Hugh as long as they can?
Because I think after the Logan movie, he said he wasn't really interested in doing Wolverine anymore.
I know.
But I could still see him doing it if the right thing.
If they pay him the right price and if they offer him the right role.
Mm-hmm.
If they say, hey, I want to do this team up, you know? But the thing is that the way that they are doing the MCU, they're planning 10, 15 years ahead of time. I don't know if he will last that long.
Yeah.
And see, that's where it's like, is it worth finding a new Wolverine? And how are audiences going to respond to a new Wolverine?
Because I know before, I'm sure the production stopped on it, but I know before the like whole Disney Fox merger, after Logan, there was talks about an X-23 movie and her taking over the role of Wolverine at some point, but also
They introduced the character so young, I don't know if that's a viable thing.
Or even just is like her taking over the role at some point, because obviously like it's a dystopian world, so obviously there's a bunch of points for heroes.
In the Logan movie, yeah, it's dystopian. It's not canon. They can do whatever the fuck they want with it at this point. So what they do in film, I don't know. What they do in comics,
I mean, you can easily reboot comics. Like
there'll be more Wolverine.
Oh yeah,
there'll be more Wolverine in comics. What they do for the cinematic universe of Marvel is up in the air. There's a lot of speculation there.
Like it depends how they bring in the X-Men and.
We haven't seen anyone in X-Men yet, have we?
No, I think some stuff in the next phase is supposed to involve the X-Men, or at least tie in.
The closest thing we're going to get to a tie-in is going to be Deadpool. I think Deadpool might be the glue that bonds the MCU together.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense, though. Right? Because he's dealt with the X-Men, dealt with the Avengers, he's dealt with everyone in some shape or form, because they've probably killed him or gone against him, or he's meddled with their shit and gotten their way. So, he might be the one that kind of brings people in.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's also dealt with Cable, right? So we got Cable in there, time traveling.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we don't know necessarily what the effects of their time travel adventures have done. And then I think there's also the whole storyline, possible talk about basically like one way that people have rumored that the X-Men are brought in to the Avengers, like the MCU, is there is actually like the basically like the universe colliding, and it basically creates a formation. Like it we mentioned it before. Happens with like Spider-Man. But it's basically like the two different universes in the comics collide, and it creates one world where a bunch, like this universe had this people, this universe had this people, and it collides, and then creates a bunch, and then they have to find a way to separate the universes back out, but some people get trapped in it, so that's one way they could do it, where like say the X-Men universe and the like MCU universe collide together, but then the X-Men get stuck in the MCU universe, and now they're there without having to do full origin movies on, oh, this is why they were missing in all of these previous events.
Yeah, because the tie-in is going to be the hardest. To explain why it's not there already, or we haven't heard or seen anything. Like, because being in the universe, they're able to talk about other characters. Being like, even in the Arrowverse, they're able to mention Batman. They're able to mention Gotham. Like, they're able to tie things in just by mentioning them. But they have not mentioned Xavier. They have not mentioned mutants. They have not mentioned that there are other creatures and beings of power and all these catastrophic events. They're not seeking out Magneto to deal with Ultron. Magneto was involved with Ultron, was he not?
Yeah.
So it's events like that where it's like, if you look at the comics, they're way different than obviously how it's played out. Now, how are you going to tie it back in at some point when you decide, let's make it all legit? Right? Because now that we own the rights, let's make it legit. How?
Which is why like the world collision and then the one getting stuck is a more plausible thing for like the main line X-Men versus something like the Fantastic Four, which is where like it's an event that causes them to gain their powers.
Yeah, you can't do an event because that goes against the lore of every every character.
Yeah.
Right? It's easier to let all the characters have their lore, have their origin stories, have their backgrounds, and just do a poof, now you're here. Everything's the same, but you were here, now you're here. You're together, now you're stuck. And work it out. So, that was a good question. I want to see what they do. I feel like we've seen the last of few.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he is really dead. Well, not dead.
He might cameo.
He could cameo, do some stuff.
But better question is, who would you recast as Wolverine?
He's already Aquaman, but I could see almost Jason Momoa doing a good Wolverine. But stuck in DC land.
Stuck in DC land. I don't think I'd like him as Wolverine. I was thinking Liv Schreiber, who plays Sabretooth, might play a good Wolverine, but
true.
He already plays a really good Sabretooth.
The one thing is, you need young enough that they can do
many years.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years of comics and be interested. Well, not.
And you need to have someone who's not going to change their look that much.
Yeah. Know? And you need someone who has, and like Wolverine's facial features are something that are a little hard to find in people.
They are.
It's
getting
like
those sideburns and stuff.
Like you can get the sideburn, but if you don't have the right like jaw structure, then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and Hugh has it. Right? Like he's portrayed it well. When I think Wolverine, I almost think Hugh Jackman. And it's gonna be hard to break that.
I mean, he's been Wolverine since like 2000. It's
been 15 years or more at least, yeah.
Like I mean, Logan came out 2017, 2018. So he's been Wolverine for basically 20 years almost. So it's kind of hard to break that association with him, which is why the question of, will they let Wolverine have a cooldown period before introducing him, or do you think they'll just jump headlong in and hope people accept the new Wolverine?
They might wait, to be honest, because of all the other characters that they're already planning to bring in.
Like I know,
Spotlight.
I think it's through like 2022 they have planned. 23 is around the end of the next phase.
Yeah, there's no mention of him.
Yeah.
There's no mention of any X-Men, actually. I don't think, other than Wanda.
I think there is 2 unannounced Marvel movies that people are hoping are going to be the X-Men tie-ins.
Like, whatever happened to New Mutants? That thing was supposed to release like 2 years ago.
It was being reshot and re-edited. I believe it's supposed to come out in area.
Well, here, like, I want to see the original take now. Right? Like, when they finally show us this movie, it's like, how much did you make it differ now from the original thing? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's enough about Wolverine. We did not go over his powers, though. His basic powers are his keen sense of smell, his heightened healing factor, and
martial arts ability,
claws,
adamantium, and upgrades.
Yeah, other than that, that's it. It's a pretty standard basic kit, and he uses it formidably.
He's a good balance between Tony Stark, who's all technology, and someone who's born of a god.
Yeah, he's a Batman with built-in gadgets. Yeah. So, like we said, next week we got Deathstroke. Wade Wilson. Slade Wilson. Wade Wilson's Deadpool. Let's get it right here.
Yeah.
Although they are very similar. Both assassins, both red suits, both wearing masks. But we're doing Slade Wilson. We should have Mitch back next week.
Mitch said he'll probably be back. He might not be.
May or may not. So, we're going to see Kenny's beautiful face again next week. So don't forget to hit that follow, subscribe, and share button. And we'll see you guys next week. Tune in starting around 7 o'clock for our rerun. So if you missed any of this episode, catch you next week.
Mm-hmm.
See you guys.
See you.